Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
It is Fearless Faith Friday, and I want to welcome you here to the Afternoon Praise, and you know who I am. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Man, this week has been great. I know you are here. I know you came to Friday ready to finish strong, and I celebrate you. I'm going to celebrate you every day because you making it through one day to the next day, that's that small celebration, and that's that small commitment and complete that compounds to something bigger. So I celebrate you on this Fearless Faith Friday. But let's do this. You know, I'm here, and I want you to know this. If this is your first time listening, the Afternoon Praise, we are here to help people reach their defiant level of success. Now, we help you by discovering, and we help you by developing your gift. Yes, we all need help with our gifts. And I know you say this is Afternoon Praise. This is on the gospel station. Yes, I'm about kingdom building. I know you're going to get preached to on Sunday. It's some great preachers out there doing a great job preaching to you, giving you the word. But I want to make sure that you are prepared so that you can operate in your God-given gift. All right. So that word, and I stack on some word here, and this show will help you, will enhance your movement so that you can reach your defiant level of success. And this week, we didn't just talk, we built. We defined the gift, we built the strategy, we governed the environment, and we systemized the execution. And today, we answer the only question that matters. Was any of that built to last? Because starting something and sustaining something requires two completely different architectures. And most people are built to start, but not built to last. Let's look at Luke 14, verse 28. For which you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first, and counteth the cost? This is not about starting, it's about finishing. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Fearless Faith Friday. Yes, we made it to the end of the week. Let's talk about starting is biological, lasting is structural. See, starting is easy. Starting is emotional. Starting is biological. Research shows that when something is new, your brain releases dopamine, which gives you energy, excitement, and motivation. But dopamine is not built to sustain, it's built to ignite. Once something becomes routine, that excitement fades. That's why people start strong and fall off, because they were fueled by excitement, not structured. And if your system is built on excitement, it will collapse the moment the excitement leaves. That's why lasting requires something different. It requires design. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on this Friday, this great Friday, this Fearless Faith Friday. Yes, let's talk about the project slump. People, the project slump is real. Every project has a moment where the excitement is gone, but the work is not finished. This is what research call the messy middle. A lot of us know about messy. I don't care if you're a good person. You done did something messy. But research call this the messy middle, where novelty is at zero and the results is not visible yet. This is where most people quit, not because they can't do it, but because they were never prepared for this phase. They planned for the start, but not the stretch. And if you don't build for this phase, you will always abandon what you began. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're tuned in to the Afternoon Praise. What do you have planned this weekend? You got plans? Are you just relaxing? Are you chilling? I know I got to do some work at the other house, so, I'm doing that this weekend. And, of course, going to church, but, it's all gravy, baby. Hey, let's talk about desire is not capacity. One of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing desire with capacity. You want it, but are you built to carry it? Research shows people overestimate their ability by 30 to 50%. That means most people plan based on who they hope to be, not who they actually are. And that gap is where things fall apart, because reality will always test what desire claimed. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
If you're just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. I need you to tell a friend, tell a family member about Wave Radio, and go to the website, okay? Go to the website, share the website. That's WAYVVE radio.com. Let's talk about the intention behavior gap. This is where most goals die. The intentions were real, the desire was real, but the execution was inconsistent. Because there is a gap between what you intend to do and what you actually sustain. That's not a motivation issue. That's a structure issue. Because intentions without structure will always lose to pressure. Always. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're tuned in to the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. This is Fearless Faith Friday, and we're talking about build to start versus build to last. Yes, let's talk about cognitive load will break you. Every commitment you make carries a cost. A mental cost, a maintenance cost. And if you don't account for that, you overload yourself. And when cognitive load increases, your ability to make good decisions decreases. So now you revert to habits, not plans. And some of us have some bad habits of just trying to get by. And if your habits aren't aligned with your goals, your results will follow your habits, not your intentions. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You just tuned in to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about finishers are built different. What separates starters from finishers? It's not talent, it's consistency. And let's look at some research from Angela Duckworth. Her research shows that grit, long-term perseverance, is a better predictor of success than talent. That means the people who last have trained themselves to continue when others stop. They don't just start with energy, they sustain through pressure. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and we are talking about build to start versus build to last. You're not tired. You're unstructured. See, a lot of people say they're tired, but they're not tired from doing too much. They are tired from doing too much without structure, without systems, without clarity. So everything feels heavy because nothing is organized. Disorder creates fatigue. Structure creates sustainability. Put you a system together for your life, for your job, for your business, for your family, and things will begin to get easier. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
This is Fearless Faith Friday, and we're talking about build to start versus build to last. Effort cannot sustain what systems must carry. Effort is a diminishing resource. Systems are a compounding one. You cannot sustain long-term success on effort alone. Why? Because effort fades, energy fluctuates, life happens, but systems keep things moving, even when you don't feel like it. That's why systems don't just support success, they protect it. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Fearless Faith Friday here on Wave Radio. Let's talk about the cost of not counting the cost. See, Jesus said, count the cost. Why? Because starting without understanding what it requires leads to quitting when it gets hard. See, most people don't fail because the idea was bad. They fail because they were not prepared to sustain it. Because they counted the opportunity, but not the responsibility to sustain it. You got to count the cost because there is a cost of not counting the cost. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about false starts create real damage. Every time you start something and don't finish it, it leaves a mark. Not just on you, but on the people connected to you. Research shows that after multiple failed and abandoned initiatives, engagement drops. People stop believing. People stop committing. People stop giving their best. Because guess what? They've seen this before, over and over. They've seen the excitement. They've seen the launch. They've seen the energy, and they've seen it fade. That's organizational scaring. That's organizational scarring. That's people credibility loss. Because inconsistency don't just slow progress, it weakens trust. And once trust is weakened, it takes longer to rebuild than it did to lose. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
Thank you for joining me on this Fearless Faith Friday. Yes, it is Friday. We are here at the end of the week. And again, I just celebrate you for making it and finishing strong. You didn't take your feet off the gas, all right? But let's talk about most people are addicted to starting. Most people are not addicted to success. They're addicted to starting. They love the idea, the announcement, the beginning. Let me back up. Ooh, that announcement thing. Good God Almighty. Everybody want to announce everything. I got this new idea. I'm starting that. Everybody love the announcement because starting feels productive. Starting feels like movement, but starting is not the goal. Sustaining is. Research shows people chase novelty to relieve mental tensions, but that doesn't build anything lasting. So they keep starting and never finish because starting gives them a feeling. Sustaining requires a decision. They rather have the feeling instead of the sustainability, and they don't want to do the hard work and making decisions. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. Identity determines sustainability. At a high level, sustainability is not about effort. It's about identity. A starter focuses on what they want. A sustainer focuses on who they are. A starter says, I want to build this. A sustainer says, this is who I am. And when something becomes identity, consistency follows. Because now you're not trying to do it, you are it. And what you are will always outlast what you try to do. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about systems turn effort into consistency. See, the reason systems matter is because they reduce the thinking required to perform. High-level environments don't rely on effort. They rely on systems, checklists, processes, repeatable execution. Because excellence is not maintained by trying harder. It's maintained by reducing vulnerability. That's why industries like aviation and medicine depend on systems, not just skills. Because when the margin for error is low, systems become non-negotiable. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You just tuned in to the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's talk about complexity kills what isn't built to last. Now, as what you build grow, complexity increases. More people, more responsibility, more pressure. If your foundation is not built for that, it will collapse under it. This is why many things doesn't last. They were built for the start, not the weight that comes after. Growth doesn't expose your strength, it exposes your structure. I'm gonna say that one more time. One more again. How they say, I'm gonna say that one more again. Growth doesn't expose your strength. It exposes your structure. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Fearless Faith Friday. We are talking about build to start versus build to last. And let's talk about capacity plus commitment equals sustainability. This is the formula, people. Capacity plus commitment equals sustainability. You need the ability to carry it and the discipline to stay with it. Because desire can't start something, but only capacity and commitment can maintain it. And if either one is missing, it won't last. Because sustainability is not about how strong you start, it's about how long you can stay aligned. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
Man, I want to thank you for joining me this week, people. Yes, this week was all about you, setting the environment so that your gifts can grow, that you can develop your gifts and grow. This has been a great week, and I thank you for joining me here on this Fearless Faith Friday. And today we had to wrap it up. Build to start versus build to last. We gave you everything you needed, but we want to make sure you're in a position and in the mindset to the last, build to last. All right, let's look at Luke 14 verse 28. For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost? Counting the cost is not about fear. It's about preparation. It's about understanding that what you're asking for comes with weight. And if you're not built for the weight, it won't last with you. Because starting something is easy, but sustaining it requires structure, requires discipline, requires identity, requires commitment. So the question is not, can you start it? The question is, was it built to last? And I want to say this. Starting requires desire. Lasting requires capacity, structure, and commitment. Hey, you've been listening to the Afternoon Praise. I want you to have a great weekend. I need you to go reset, relax, reset, and start the week off strong. Hey, I'm out of here. I will catch you Monday on Motivation Monday. I'm out of here. Peace.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.